Hello, beautiful. I'm your host, Nicole Goff. Welcome to the Ecstatic Life Podcast, the podcast for women who want it all: health, wealth, freedom, authenticity, love, beauty, all of the hidden gems just waiting to be uncovered. This is the podcast for women who are ready to discover their inner creatrix, to discover their inner manifester, and who want to find the ecstatic in every day. Hello, and welcome back to the Ecstatic Life Podcast. I am your host, Nicole Goff, and I am here on a solo cast episode today to talk about something that has been coming up a lot recently, which is mom guilt. And this is something that I've been hearing from a lot of my friends and clients, and that is that dealing with the guilt that comes from worrying about making the wrong decisions as a mother, not doing enough, not being enough, your kids suffering is weighing really, really heavy on women right now. And I know personally in the past, I've struggled with this a lot. And I feel like this is deeply tied to this sense of martyrdom being a good thing, martyrdom being a good characteristic to have, especially as a stay-at-home mom. So I can't speak for working mothers who are not in the home, but I do know for those of us that are home with our kids, being homemakers, taking care of the whole house, taking care of our whole family's needs, taking care of the kids on a full-time basis, that this idea that we should just be giving and giving and giving and giving is so deeply ingrained. And I do label this as martyrdom. And that might sound a bit harsh. And I don't want you to, take this as me judging, because I was fully in it. And I know that my journey, the biggest part of my journey, of my feminine reclamation, was recognizing that it wasn't a healthy pattern, that giving your all to your family doesn't make you good. It doesn't make you a good mother. It doesn't make you, when I say good, I use quotations, quote unquote, good, a good girl, which is what has been programmed into us since childhood. And as women, especially, as I said, as stay-at-home mothers, it is seen as selfish in a lot of ways for us to concentrate on our own wants and needs. And this is a big myth, a myth that I want to bust right here and right now. Because if you are not taking care of yourself, if you are not putting that self-care first, if you are not putting your needs first, you cannot fill from an empty cup. And I say that all the time. I know it's kind of a cutesy little saying, but it's also 100% true. When you're running on empty, it's hard to show up as your best self for your children. And I know this, as I said, this was my journey. I was giving and giving and giving, not just to my kids, not just to my family, but to my community also, volunteering on multiple boards, running a community center, running a big homeschool co-op, and then to make sure I was spending enough time with my parents and giving to, my neighborhood, my family, my friend groups, giving of myself, giving my time and my energy in so many places. And, I've always been that friend that'll let you sit there and talk my ear off and, take hours of my day that I didn't have to give if you have a problem. And this is absolutely seen as for women, as a quality. And it's not to say that you cut people off or you become a hard bitch. For those of you that this is resonating with, I am very sure that you're not falling into that category. So the thing is, though, is to see yourself the way you see other people around you, to see yourself in that way, somebody who you need to also be there for, to care for. And I would say that you show up for yourself actually. Number one, You show up for yourself. Because, and I know a lot of people listening that are probably getting triggered already, because it is programmed into us that is selfish. But let me unpack this. When we are born, we are gifted these bodies. And I fully believe that we are a spiritual being having a human experience. And we are gifted these bodies. And I believe that it is our number one job in this life to care for this body. We want it to see us through from birth to death. And hopefully that is a long and happy and healthy life. And it is our job to care for this vessel that we are given. It is such a gift. It is such a gift to be able to be alive and to experience the full range of everything, the ecstasy and the tragedy, and to be able to be in this vessel and have these experiences, to be able to birth children and fall in love. And it is such a magical thing. And I believe, as our duty to God, to the universe, however you want to say it, to the creator, to the divine life force energy, to care for this body as the sacred vessel that it is for you in this life. And so I know now that it is one of my top priorities to care for myself. And I see now that in doing so, I show up better as a mom, I show up better as a wife, I show up better as a daughter, as a community member, as a community leader, as a neighbor, as a friend. I show up better as a coach, as a client. In every single way, I show up better when I have that at top of mind. And this doesn't mean that I neglect my kids. This doesn't mean that I'm going to be spending 10 hours a week in the spa. That'd be freaking nice, wouldn't it? Oh, I wish. Yeah, it doesn't mean that I'm spending 10 hours a week in the spa and, getting my nails done and my hair done and, whatever. I mean, obviously, you guys know me and see me. That's not the top priority. But this means that what I do is I make sure that I am well rested, well nourished, well hydrated, that I care for my body, that I adorn myself, that I care what I look like. I care how I present myself. I care about my passions. I follow my passions. I do things that are just for me, for fun, for, just my own pleasure, such as, writing and art and those kinds of things. I prioritize these things. They're not just like, oh, if I have time and I can get to it, maybe I'll squeeze in 5 minutes here or there. It's actually at top of mind every day that I make sure that I am taking care of myself, because it is so easy, as I was a few years ago, to fall into this trap of what I call like the hot mess mom bun yoga pants reality, where we wake up, hopefully remember to brush our teeth, probably not getting in the shower and not, getting ready. We're throwing stuff on. We're immediately going to take care of the kids, make breakfast for the family, get everybody ready for their day. And meanwhile, we have taken 2 sips of our coffee or tea and it's sitting on the counter getting cold. And we haven't eaten, we haven't fed ourselves yet. And we're walking around looking like a disheveled hot mess. And leaving the house that way to take the kids to, whatever their activities are for the day, homeschool co-ops and dance and whatever. And so this is not a sustainable or healthy way to function. And I can tell you personally, I got real burnt out and resentful. And I got to the point where I was literally ready to burn it all down. I was literally ready to divorce my husband, to take the kids and leave and move away. Like, I was ready to escape my life. I felt that miserable. And, I was resentful. I felt like I had no support. I had the full entire weight of the world on my shoulders, all the time, having to take care of everybody. And I was exhausted. I was worn thin. I was over caffeinated, not sleeping, having insomnia. My, internal clock was so messed up. I was just having insomnia every night. And, I was sick all the time. I didn't look good. I didn't feel good. And I got to the point where I just hit this breaking point. And like I said, I was ready to just, totally turn my whole family upside down. And luckily, at this point, I got some really good coaching. And I came across some ideas about feminine reclamation. And I started to see things differently. I started to see this victim mentality that I had been living in, this martyrdom that I had taken on. And when I recognized it, I was able to start letting it go. And so I saw this mom guilt. I saw this for what it was, as an unhealthy habit, as an unhealthy trait that I had taken on. And I saw that living in this way was not sustainable. I saw the road that it was leading me down. I saw the path that if I kept going down, where it was headed. And it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my kids. It wasn't good for my family. And so at that point, once I saw what was going on, I had a choice. And I chose to very intentionally start making changes. And I did that first by just taking 30 minutes a day for myself. Just without guilt, without shame, without question, making 30 minutes every day for myself. And for me, what that looked like was taking a bath. I mean, can you imagine? Like, I wasn't even taking a bath by myself on a daily basis. Like, I have 5 kids, and I think at that time I was pregnant with my 5th. So the 3 little ones were always jumping into the bubble bath with me. I had this huge garden tub at the time, and every time I would go to take a bath, even if I wanted that time to myself, to be by myself, they would come barging in the door and they'd hop in and I'd be like, oh, okay, whatever, And that was the first thing I reclaimed. I said, okay, I told my husband, do not let the kids disturb me. I would lock the door. So I created that container and I would take a bath every day by myself. And from there, that self-care was established and it grew. And I saw how just that little act of being kind to myself every day, of giving myself that space that I needed, was so transformative. And I kept getting coaching and I kept learning. I kept delving further and further into this. And over the years, I really developed this beautiful self-care plan that has just made my life so much more, that's where ecstatic life comes from, right? It made my life so much more ecstatic. And so in the beginning, I did have a lot of that mom guilt, and this voice in my head that was saying, well, if you are spending this half hour, whatever, like taking care of yourself, that's taking away from your family. Like, you should be doing the dishes and cooking and cleaning or doing something productive, maybe doing some work and making some money. There's so many other things you could be doing instead of laying around in a bubble bath by yourself. And this little voice would come in and, it would cause me to question myself, cause that shame and that guilt. And I had to diligently remind myself, no, not only do I need this, but my family needs this. Because if I don't give myself this time and I don't start helping myself to feel whole, to feel like a fully realized person again, and not just a mom or a wife or a community leader or whatever these other titles that were really about giving to others, then I wasn't going to be able to be a good mom or wife, et cetera, et cetera. And so I had to keep reminding myself, like, no, this is not selfish. This is not even just for me, which,
I'd say you don't even need to go there, really. It can just be for you, but it's also for the family. And if I'm at the point that I'm feeling so martyred and bogged down, the weight is so much on my shoulder that I'm ready to leave my marriage, well, obviously, that's not a healthy place for anybody in the family. So, yeah, I started with that small routine and it grew. It grew into a total health reclamation, a total change of my diet, total reset of my circadian rhythm. And the more I started doing these things, the more I started stacking these habits. Habit stacks are when you learn new habits that you incorporate into your, daily life, one on top of the other. And as you stack these healthy habits, they create massive change. And these habits become things like brushing your teeth, brushing your hair. I mean, most of us have, plenty of habits that we do daily that we don't even think about. How did they become habits? How did they become ingrained in that way? Well, a lot of them were taught as children. A lot of them we are, raised to have these habits ingrained. But we can teach ourselves these habits, these daily self-care habits that I have picked up. I have taken them from something I had to kind of train myself to do, set an alarm, make intentions, put it on my to-do list, put it on my calendar, to now they're just daily habits, daily routines like brushing my teeth. You get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you wash your face, you put your hair up, whatever your little morning routine is. And now I do things like I get up in the morning and I meditate and do breath work in the sauna. And then I do myself a little ecstatic dance or maybe some intuitive movement. And, I have incorporated these things that really fill me up, that make me feel ecstatic, that make me, set up for a joyous day, where I feel happy then when my kids get up and I'm making breakfast for them and we're hanging out, we're interacting with each other, and I'm already filled up. I'm already feeling great about my day. I'm already feeling great about myself, feeling proud of myself for having done these self-care things to take care of myself, to fill my own cup, and then giving from the overflow. And I see the changes that it is not only made in myself, but in my entire family. And I'll say especially also, with my husband. So, now these changes overflow to him because as I have upgraded, stepped up, with taking care of myself and prioritizing my happiness and well-being, I see that he is now doing the same. And so, this has ripple effects. Also with the kids. One of the big things that I realized was that I was training my 4 daughters to be martyrs. Whew, and let that sink in. Your daughters are watching you. They're watching you give your entire life to others. They're watching you give and give and give and wear yourself thin, wear yourself ragged. And then they are going to take on that identity and they are going to believe that that is what it is to be a woman, that is what it is to be a wife, to be a mother. And I wasn't okay with that. I was not okay with raising those type of women. And that hurt. That stung. And when I faced that, I was like, ooh, that was good motivation to show them how to have boundaries, to show them how to prioritize their self, how to have self-care. And I think that I see now my younger ones, they're still at a young enough age where this will just now be the norm for them. But I do see now the effect, the ripple effect that this will have on this next generation and then the next generation. So I am creating this change, this generational lineage change in my family by saying no more mom guilt, no more martyrdom. I am a person with just as much priority in this family as anyone else. And that's not selfish. And I won't feel bad about it. I won't feel guilty and wrong for taking time for my self-care.
Hello, beautiful. How does your morning routine make you feel? Are you jumping out of bed full of energy, ready to tackle the day? Or are you waking up groggy to a blaring alarm and going straight for your cup of coffee in order to fuel your misery? I can tell you, a couple of years ago, I was in the latter category. But now I wake up every day, well, nearly every day, ecstatic about life. And because of that, I decided to create a series of workshops called Ecstatic Habits, which are the daily practices that I use to bring more joy, health and wellness, passion, energy, and vitality into my life. The first in this series is my 7-day detox course, and it has just launched. In this workshop, I teach simple, effective, and gentle methods of detoxification that work with your body's natural detox pathways. These detoxification habits can help you eliminate bloat, skin problems, brain fog, fatigue, headaches, and so much more. And I've put it all together in an easy-to-follow, guided, step-by-step process, including a whole week's worth of videos, PDF instructions, recipes, and more support. So head over to my website, NicoleGoffSpeaks.com, and check out my offers tab and sign up for the 7-day detox if you are ready to make your life more ecstatic.
And so this is just a quick transmission that I wanted to put out there for you guys. But I do want to leave you with some tips, with some practices that you can implement today. So the first thing I would say is create the container. Create that container for yourself. And this has to be a non-negotiable. So if it is 30 minutes, an hour, you create that space in your calendar, like literally put it on your calendar, your planner, in your phone, however you keep track of your to-dos, put it in daily. And choose one thing. Choose one thing that really fills you up. And like I said, for me, the first thing was that bubble bath, but it doesn't have to be that kind of thing. I mean, it could be a yoga workout on YouTube. It could be a walk by yourself. By yourself. That's key. By yourself. Not taking a walk with the kids and walking the dog. And, that's not self-care. I mean, that can be good. That's good for you. I'm not saying that that's not a good thing. But I'm talking about prioritizing something just for you by yourself. So maybe that is taking a nap in the middle of the day. Maybe that is spending 30 minutes a day journaling. Find something that you can do on a daily basis that you love, that you want to do, that's just for you. And so make a list maybe. Make a list of things you love. Maybe reach back into the past and think about things that you really loved to do before you were married and had kids. So, maybe back in college or back when you were a teenager or whatever, what was something like maybe you were really into art or playing the guitar or sewing. And now that you have a bunch of kids running around and all these to-dos that you just don't have time for, that you're, well, I'll get to that later. Pick something, make a list and pick something. Maybe it's picking up the guitar again. And then create the container. Create the space for it. So you're going to need to leave the house, lock the door, something. There has to be some kind of a physical container created so that you cannot just be interrupted willy-nilly, because that's how kids are, It's like if you don't lock the door, they're just going to bust on in and interrupt whatever it is. So you have to create that container physically and then also with your time. And that's why I say mark it on the calendar, make it a non-negotiable. From 5:30 to 6 every day, I lock myself in the bedroom and I journal. And then you have to let your family know. You have to announce it. You have to say, this is the new routine. I need to have this space and this time for me because I need this. And you can explain it, however you would like. This isn't like I demand and this is a bad thing. Make sure you're framing it as something that is good for the family. I need this time to care for myself because I love myself, and journaling makes me feel really, really good. And when I get done, I feel so much happier that I just want to share all that happiness with you guys and, whatever it is. And you can even get your kids involved in the sense that it's like, I'm going to go spend 30 minutes doing a yoga video every single day. And when I get done, I'll go outside with you and I'll show you the favorite position that I learned in that video. Don't make it this like bad thing. Don't make it this thing where it's like, mommy is doing this and you can't do it. You want to make this something that like the whole family can get behind and wants to get it behind. And your kids might balk at first. I know mine did. They're like pounding on the door. They're like, knock, 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 knock. Like, let us in. We want to get in too. And I just had to be firm. And you'll have to be firm also. Like, no, this is my time. That's actually why it's kind of easier to start with something where you're out of the house. But it's a bit harder to get out of the house by yourself every single day. You have to make sure you have some kind of a babysitter or you're the other parent or whatever there. So it's kind of, a mixed bag there. It's kind of easier to do something where you stay in your home. You can always, use that dreaded screen time to entertain the kids. And then it's kind of a win-win. It's like, okay, you guys get to, watch Wildcrats for a 30-minute episode. I'm going to go in my bedroom and do yoga. Do not disturb sign on the door. Like, I literally hang a do not disturb sign on my door when I'm having my podcast recording time or whatever. And it says right on there, I hand wrote it. It says, mommy is working. Shh. So create the physical container, create the time, announce it to your family, let them know, get your husband on board. If you have older children who can babysit, get them on board. I pay my 10-year-old to watch the little ones when I'm in the house. So she charges $3 an hour. It's an amazing deal. And she entertains her younger siblings while I do things like record podcasts. And so this is great. This like teaches your kids how to make money and entrepreneurship. And so I love that. I love paying my kids for jobs. They love making money. It's like a win-win. Or, talk to your husband and say, so every evening when you get off work, you're going to be in charge of the kids and I am going to go on an evening walk by myself. And you make it a non-negotiable routine. And your husband loves you and he wants you to be happy. And so just tell him, I need this. I need this for myself. I've been feeling all kinds of worn down, and I know that I need to prioritize my self-care. And so I really, really need you to get on board with this. And so, hand the reins over to him, put on your sneakers, walk out the door. Non-negotiable. That's really the key. That's really the key. Just like brushing your teeth, bathing, brushing your hair, putting on deodorant, like you wouldn't think like, oh, I'm so selfish for brushing my teeth this morning. You have to frame it like that. You wouldn't feel guilty for taking 5 minutes to brush your hair. You don't need to feel guilty for taking 30 minutes to go on a walk. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has given you a permission slip to drop the mom guilt, to drop the martyrdom, and to step in to self-care, into loving yourself and cherishing yourself and cherishing this vessel that you're in and treating yourself just like you would treat your kids and your family, your community, with love and care and attention, because you don't just deserve it, you need it. It is a requirement. It's not just some luxury. Self-care is not a luxury. It is a requirement to be a happy, healthy, whole person and to be a joyful, calm, giving, loving mother. So, if you need any help with this, please reach out. I'm happy to support you in creating a self-care routine. And I will see you next time.